Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Hello and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name's Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael are master debaters. That's right. They're always discussing the Mount Rushmore of any given topic. And this week is no different because this week we're tackling the Mount Rushmore of The Simpsons. Periphery. Things that exist around, above, next to, in parallel to, but not in the actual episodes of The Simpsons that are having to do with The Simpsons. Michael, this is your choice.
Yeah, The Simpsons have always been kind of one of the three cornerstones of nerddom that made up my childhood. The other two being comic books and Star Wars. It was just those three things, whether I was wearing a Simpsons t-shirt to school or a Star Wars t-shirt to school or a Spider-Man t-shirt to school. That was kind of me as a kid. And I kind of have this golden image of maybe a good decade of the show in my head. But when I was thinking of The Simpsons in general, sure, it's fun to talk about the individual characters and maybe best or Mount Rushmore of episodes, but I like the world that kind of exists beyond that. And whether it's marketing or movies or food or whatever, The Simpsons kind of has legs of its own outside of just being a TV show.
Yeah. I mean, we're sitting here and I'm wearing my American Dad t-shirt and some bootleg American Dad stuff. And
I'm head to toe with Cleveland Show stuff myself.
Cleveland Show stuff. Well, you can't talk about the Beatles without thinking about Beatlemania and the huge cultural splash that it made and the long-lasting impact that it made. And some of these fall into that. So you talked about your personal experience, but clearly the culture, there was a million Michael Winfields walking around who were impacted.
Oh, God.
Isn't that horrible? What if there were? Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry, America.
I got to build a wall, but not between the U.S. and Mexico. So it was obviously personal to you, but then we all recognize that it was a huge impact on our culture. So let's share that periphery. Michael, you chose it. Richard, you start.
All right, so my first one is that time when George H.W. Bush went all in on The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's on my list too, as The Simpsons as the end of family values.
Yeah, pretty much. So there were two things that happened. One, Barbara Bush said that The Simpsons was pretty much the dumbest thing she'd ever seen, which led someone on The Simpsons staff, who knows, writer, rating, to write her a letter from Marge Simpson, giving her a what for and stick and whatnot, which Barbara Bush then apologized for. Then a couple of years later at the Republican National Convention, George H.W. Bush, as part of his speech, said, I think the line was, we need American families to be more like the Waltons and less like the Simpsons.
Right.
Which pretty much, it was on from there. And that administration just had I'd have to think about what exactly was happening in society in the early 90s. But that administration really had a thing for pop culture. They watched a lot of TV there or something.
Yeah.
Because you had the Dan Quayle, Murphy Brown.
Kerfuffle.
That's a good word for it, yeah. And The Simpsons kind of got their revenge when they did an episode where George H.W. Bush moves in next to Homer.
Yeah.
And he basically becomes the Mr. Wilson to Bart's Dennis and has this massive feud with Homer. Mm-hmm.
They had a strange hard-on for The Simpsons being a bad family. It could have been that they went up against the Cosby Show, directly, and where the Cosby Show was this kind of ideal of American values and American family.
LOL.
But The Simpsons, the irony now, but The Simpsons themselves were generally pretty good characters. Homer was a, middle America in theory. No one knows where Springfield is, but he was, part of the middle class, raised a family of 2.5 kids. Marge was a stay-at-home mom. They went to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
The biggest issues were
Bart telling people to eat his shorts.
Yeah, he had definitely an anti-authoritarian bent to him, and whether he would, the worst thing he really did was graffiti and cut the head off a statue.
I guess I examine all the 80s sitcoms that were popular, there seemed to be rife with wise-talking, backsassing kids. Why was it this animated show was worse than that?
I think they saw that because it was animated, they thought that it was aimed towards kids. You can if it's like a 10-year-old boy, you can kind of ignore it as a child and a child actor in its real life. But I think as a cartoon, you can basically say, "Oh, well, this is aimed towards kids." So once he,
it's almost treated as educational television.
Yes, once he tells him not cowabunga. Once he tells him don't have a cow and eat my like Richard said, eat my shorts, then it kind of maybe other kid. I don't know. It's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. It's the 90s were a lot about overreacting to culture.
Yeah.
Whether it was The Simpsons or like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
It's the 90s were strange.
Yeah.
It's amazing now thinking how much a show on Fox was targeted as the undoing of family values. Now we think of Fox News as the show, the entertainment of Fox News, as believing that's upholding what our American values. It's funny.
I find it interesting, like years later, like the National Review in 2000 had this to say about The Simpsons. It's possibly the most intelligent, funny, and even politically satisfying TV show ever. The Simpsons celebrates many of the best conservative principles, the primacy of family, skepticism, and political authority. Springfield residents pray and attend church every Sunday. So all this shit just comes full circle, and anybody can get on board as long as the ratings are high enough.
Yeah, exactly.
So we both chose George W. Bush or the targeting of family entertainment, and Simpsons representing the end of family entertainment.
Yeah, basically the death of American culture.
Okay. What's your first one? I guess it'd be your second one, Michael.
Mine is the bootleg Simpsons T-shirt.
Also on my list.
Good, 2 for 2.
Yep.
Moving along.
You wanted a quick episode, Jeff. You're getting it.
Whether it's the Gecko Simpsons or Rasta Bart.
Or Rasta Bart's a good one.
Or Bart kicking Saddam Hussein's ass in some variety of another.
Black Bart.
Black Bart.
Yeah.
A blunt man.
Peeing Bart Simpson, which I think preceded Peeing Calvin.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Maybe
possibly.
just a little bit.
Oh.
They're all intertwined.
The Simpsons have had such a healthy relationship with...
Marcel Duchamp did Peeing Nude Descending Staircase. I fucked that up so bad. Oh, shit.
He also did This Is Not a Homer.
This isn't a... Je ne sais Homer. So why do you like the bootleg Simpsons items?
Well, I like that they become this kind of template for whatever you want to do with Bart Simpson. He all of a sudden can be like Black Bart, or he can be like the Rasta Bart or the Gecko family Simpsons. Like whatever idea you have, you can transplant it onto this mischievous.
I'm looking at this vulture.com. They have a article, I won't put it on the website, about the 50 best bootleg Bart t-shirts. And so many of these are, again, these sort of like ethnic takes on Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Where I'm looking at one where he's Bart Sanchez, and he's got a knife.
An Irish interpretation of Bart, obviously.
It says, I'm a Mexican radical dude. I'm looking at one where it says Jerusalem, and he's in front of the Wailing Wall, and he's riding a camel, and he's got like a Jewish hat on, or those like, I don't know what they're called. You know what I mean? Like those black, white-brimmed hats that like Orthodox Jews wear. Okay. He's got that on. I don't know why he's riding a camel. I don't think they have camels in Israel, do they? That doesn't sound right. Berto Simpson, Puerto Rican and proud. Mm-hmm. There's one Irish. Yeah, I mean, just pretty much if a pierogi, Bart Simpsky, and he's got like he's saying, so where's the pierogies, dude? So you're right. It's just this template for whatever you want, whatever you think would be something radical.
Yeah,
to have somebody say,
whether it's
you just slap it on there,
whether it's something you identify with, whether it's your own your own race, or if it's like some like
awful stereotype,
or like a political statement, like Bart had these. Yeah, he was out there trying to kick Saddam Hussein's ass. That was what was happening in the early 90s. Was anti-Iraqi and Saddam sentiment that kind of dominated everything. And
Yeah, you don't see many.
Cowabunga, the Saddam.
Yeah, you don't see very many bootleg Simpsons T-shirts anymore. By the way,
Well, it's funny that
you see them, but the quality has gone down.
there was. Did you see Have you seen the Portlandia episode with Matt Groening?
No.
Where he came on the show and he's suing this guy that created, has a drawing. He's selling T-shirts of this guy Bart Scampson, and he's just Bart, ska dancing.
Yeah.
And then the guy that he was suing, it was in some courtroom. He's like, "No, I based this on my friend Bart Scampson growing up," and it revealed. And he, eventually this guy shows up in court, and he's dressed like this rude boy, this ska rude boy, and has Bart's spiky hair, and basically throws out it's a great episode. But the other thing is that it's so interesting seeing so many licensed and unlicensed T-shirts for any sort of property that kind of flood the market. You can see a Star Wars T-shirt that they've officially licensed, but then you can see these strange interpretations of them, like a Simpsons or a Star Wars character as Cookie Monster, or whatever. That there doesn't seem to be any sort of limitation on an artist taking a property and selling their own version of it, as long as it's not an official version. And these feel like the precursors to that, where it's okay, well, it's Bart Simpson, but he's peeing on something like a Calvin peeing sticker.
Whereas it doesn't seem like artistic freedom of speech. It's just a nihilistic message that's trying to incite an audience. So, well, cool. There's a great 30 for 30 podcast about these guys. Have you listened to 30 for 30 audio podcasts?
I've heard a couple of them.
Yeah, the Yankees suck T-shirts guys.
Oh, yeah.
Capitalizing on a sentiment that existed in popular culture. So they weren't the first person to ever say Yankees suck. It had been a way to make friends in Boston by saying Yankees suck. But they just finally put it on print and captured the zeitgeist.
Right.
Yeah. Hey guys, we're halfway through our Simpsons Periphery episode, and I want to come to you with a great idea. Maybe this is more of a Shelbyville idea. No, I think it's a you idea, and that is to go to Audible. That's right, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Do you like interesting stuff about The Simpsons, secrets about The Simpsons, details about The Simpsons? Then you should check out We Put the Spring in Springfield, chronicling the golden era of The Simpsons. That's available on Audible, and it's written by Justin Sedgwick and narrated by Peter Burkrot. With 180,000 other titles, Audible is going to have a lot of books you would be interested in. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Rushmore for your free audiobook. All right, guys, so I think we are at our halftime. All right, we are at our halftime. And I want to invite you all to download, listen, rate, and review the past episodes of the Mount Rushmore podcast on iTunes, and you can also do that on Stitcher as well, and probably some other things, I guess. You can go to our website, mountrushmorepodcast.com, and go to our Facebook page and get in the dialogue. Let us know the Simpsons Periphery that you enjoy or had. Post a picture of yourself in a T-shirt or wearing a Bart Simpson, your hair in the style of Bart Simpson's or something from the 80s. Do whatever you can. And to join the conversation, we'd love to hear your suggestions for future episodes. And we is back. So I think Richard, you are starting our third round.
I am. And my third pick is Simpsons porn.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
So look in the notes for the show. We'll have a bunch of GIFs, animated GIFs posted.
Oh, it's
awful. It's awful. So there's a thing called Rule 34 on the internet, which is basically if something exists, there's probably a porn version of it.
Oh, I've never heard of Rule 34.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's anything that has a broader level of... Guys, there's a lot of fucking Simpsons porn out there, is what I'm trying to say.
Let it be known that Richard looks... the expression on his face is if you drunk Worcestershire sauce with mud in it or something.
Or like if you thought you were going to be drinking water and it turns out it's like turpentine.
Yeah.
That kind of like shock and revulsion you would get.
Your personal repulsion to Simpsons porn is evident on your face.
It's and there's any combination of parents and kids and brothers and sisters and secondary characters just going at it.
Man, don't bring Krusty into this.
What is why? So my
How's
question.
Millhouse pulling that hot chick?
So my question is,
I hope that every porn video
King and
featuring
Kodos.
The Simpsons has Millhouse being cucked in the corner somewhere. He's never getting that.
or that should be his dad, right?
Oh, yeah.
even better. I guarantee.
Kirk Van Houten over there.
Guarantee you I guarantee you I could search right now and find a porn image of Kirk Van Houten in the corner while his wife and somebody are doing it. Guarantee you.
I hope you look it up on Jeff's wireless network, and then the police show up within that by the end of this
Well,
podcast.
it's interesting that you mentioned that because okay, so this would have been about 7 years ago. I got laid off from my job.
Sentence didn't end the way I thought it was. Gonna.
And while I was looking for a job, I wound up applying and getting an interview with AVN. AVN,
all
Adult
right.
Video News.
Well, this has got an upside to this story.
It's coming around. And so my trial...
I'm glad that you tried to get a job with like the classy news portion.
They're like...
I'm a newsman. I'm a journalist.
They're like the variety for people sticking dicks inside of other people.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
So they had me do a trial, like one story. And the story they gave me was about this court case in Australia where they had ruled that someone who had Simpsons porn like images on his computer, that was tantamount to being child porn. So they had me do a story about that, which was not nearly as sexy of a story as I thought I was going to be working on.
So when do I meet Sika?
Yeah, did not get. Is Christy Canyon still alive? So did not get that gig, but it was an interesting story. Just apparently in Australia they had passed this law that basically said depictions of child pornography are the same as child pornography. So even though it was Simpsons characters and it was obvious that it wasn't like actual kids, they were still treating it the same way. Which I don't know how I feel about that because that seems like kind of overreacting. I think Neil Gaiman said something about the case that's basically like you have to be able to use reality a little bit and common sense. At the same time, I have no problem with...
I'm still... there are certain things that I'm still fine if you just want to throw the book at him for just something that's just like abhorrent.
Would that be one of them?
I'm fine with that.
So I was doing the research on this.
What?
By the way,
Like,
why? My question is
I hate
why.
I hate to be like, what is the cultural significance of, like, or artistic merit behind like Bart and Simpson screwing?
Why?
And then I think, you know what? There is none. So I'm okay. And I'm not like well, if you're going to do that, well, what's next? No, just do that and then be done. And then there you go. We're good.
Oh, also, by the way, when I was researching this, I did not know this. Turns out there was actually a Simpsons porn parody.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Of course there was.
Yeah.
Again, the other thing, not only is there probably fake porn about it, if it's popular enough, someone will make a real porn based on it. And, are you wondering if all of the porn actors are yellow? Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Oh,
they
dear.
use some sort of like filter on them to make them look like kind of like that. I don't know, were there any superheroes that were kind of yellowy? Who am I thinking of?
There's a Sin City movie.
Yeah, or
where
Kid.
what's his name was dressed up as that yellow bastard.
Mickey Rourke, right?
No, but it was another character that was like that.
Or they kind of look like a yellow version of like Lou Ferrigno's Hulk.
Okay.
And then where it's like just the bad like sort of like on them or whatever. So I will leave that to somebody else. If you guys have watched this, feel free to chime in. Actually, don't chime in on our Facebook or Twitter. Keep it to your damn selves.
A favorite website, blog I go to is dangerousminds.net, and they have a post where they chronicle the appearance and history of Tijuana Bibles, illustrated joke books featuring squeaky clean comic strip characters like Mickey Mouse and things that predate Mickey Mouse, like the Katzenjammer Kids or whatever, Superman, in very adult, lurid situations. So it seems like this has been going on in history for
100 years plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, what's your third?
My third pick is The Simpsons Sing the Blues, the 1990 album that they put out in order to very quickly capitalize on the extreme Simpsons fandom that had come out after the show had been around for less than a year, maybe 20 episodes. This was like in the middle of the second season when they decided, we need to make sure we have an album out, and that everyone needs to, all of the cast members also need to sing on this, whether they can sing or not. The first single of it was Do the Bartman, which was them trying to push a new dance craze of Bart.
Was it about Steve Bartman?
It was not about that guy who there would be another 8 years before he came to prominence, right? 98?
Very prescient.
Yes. But they had like a music video for him that would debut right after an episode of The Simpsons. And Michael Jackson would later do this for like Black and White. I remember it was a big deal when it was like the new Michael Jackson video is coming out and it's after The Simpsons. And there's a definite affinity between those two camps.
Yeah.
He sang backing vocals on Do the Bartman.
Oh, wow.
For one. And then, later appeared on an episode, but it wasn't, it was uncredited.
Yeah.
But it was 100%.
Yeah.
As that crazy guy that thought he was Michael Jackson. But it was actually Michael
Do you
Jackson.
think the bridge, I feel like the missing link here is the Tim Burton Batman and how Bart, Do the Bartman, didn't it come from him saying, I'm Bartman, and Batman was such a huge hit?
That seems like that would make sense. Bart for a little while too on the show.
El Barto?
No. He had a character of Bartman where he'd wear like a purple hood, like he was a superhero. Kind of like the same way that like Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin would be.
Oh no, you're thinking of Blunt Man, as discussed in the
all over the
bootleg.
place.
There was a Batman tie-in.
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Did that have anything to do, you think, with Bat Dance?
Yeah, I think there was.
Yeah.
I think
that's what Jeff's getting at.
Yeah.
I also read Sam Simon or somebody was saying in the recording session for that episode, Michael Jackson brought with him a Michael Jackson sound-alike who was Caucasian, who looked nothing like Michael Jackson, and they both went behind a screen and recorded their audio. And he suspects it might not even really be Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was present.
That's great.
And sought them out to record an episode, but had this perception that maybe he could, I don't know, evade actually recording the actual voice.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The album itself, though, was this weird collection of, Bart doing a couple of hip hop tunes. He had that, and he had like a song called Deep Deep Trouble, which was Deep Deep Trouble, which was produced by DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Oh wow!
And then Lisa, I think the title of the album itself, Simpsons Sing the Blues, came out of like this idea where there's just like, well, Lisa plays the blues on saxophone, so of course everyone can identify. It was so strange.
Yeah.
Like Julie Kavner, who does Marge Simpson's voice, like she and Homer had a couple of songs and duets together, and like she does not have a good singing voice. No. She barely has a good speaking voice.
Yeah.
And it was just this, I 100% had it on cassette tape.
Yeah.
And I even had like the later CDs. They had like other musical albums that would take bits and pieces from the kind of musical aspects of the show. They just eventually decided, let's keep these guys from singing. And let's just put
music from the show.
Yeah. But I love that album. And it was like this weird thing. Like looking it up, I didn't realize it came out within basically a year and a half.
Was it that soon? Wow.
It was December of 1990.
I can't imagine.
And the show came out December of 1989.
It's insane how much of a, like you said earlier, I think in the intro, maybe a mania it was about The Simpsons. Like, we're 20 however many years on, so it's kind of just part of the culture at this point. So we just sort of, I think, take it for granted.
Yeah,
but it was just insane how crazy people were.
Made it number one on the charts in Ireland, number one on the charts in New Zealand, Norway.
Wow,
but
Australia.
I think if you put out any album in New Zealand, you're automatically in the top 10. They only have like 10 albums at a time. So
the best of Aboriginal Rain Stick, though. They were appearing as shorts on Tracy Ullman, so it wasn't like they were entirely unfamiliar.
That's true.
But to have ramped up so much, there weren't any kids. There weren't any little kids or urban areas where they were talking about Tracy Ullman show.
All the Ullman heads out there.
Yeah, the big Ullman head. Okay, Richard, your fourth is what?
All right, so my last one is the Simpsons Pinball game. I am a big pinball guy.
Pinball head.
Yeah, pinball.
That's what we call you behind the scenes.
Better than a pinhead.
Hey, PBH.
Better than a pinhead, I suppose. I spent a lot of, I think maybe even mentioned this on the show before. I spent a lot of time and a lot of quarters in college at the student union playing pinball. And this was one of the games they had. And there's actually two different Simpsons pinball games. There's the original one that came out in 90. So again, within like a year and a half. And then there's a later one that's the Simpsons Pinball Party. Came out in 2003. I'm not as familiar with that one. So I'm talking mainly about the original Simpsons pinball game. And it's just a really fun pinball game. The 90s were really a time that sort of the pinball tie-ins to pop culture were prevalent.
Yeah.
There were a lot of...
Jurassic Park was a big one.
Jurassic Park was a great...
A Room
Addams
with a
Family.
View, Howard's End,
Tower's End, yeah.
The Merchant Ivory,
Hoop Dreams. I remember that one. That was a
Hope
big one.
Dreams, yeah, Roger and Me.
So I actually sat down and I thought about, okay, what would be on mini Rushmore time? The Rushmore of 90s pop culture themed pinball games.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I got this.
Yeah.
I've got the Who's Tommy. That was a pinball game where it had a feature where if you wanted to, you could, their like blinders would come over the flippers. So you had to play it like you were blind.
Oh, cool.
There was the Addams Family,
Yeah.
which is the greatest pinball game ever made, without question. And then I was a little stuck on the fourth one. I seem to remember the T2 one that had the gun that you would shoot for the trigger.
Milagro Beanfield War had a pretty good one.
Yeah, it did. But the Simpsons one, I think what made those ones work versus some of the other crappier ones, like the Milagro Beanfield War.
Yeah, Sophie's Choice.
Sophie's Choice. Was just the
Extra point. You get to keep one of your children.
extra ball, extra kid.
Extra children.
It was just how well they integrated the actual, what was happening in the TV show or the movie that they were basing it off of. Like, the quality of that goes a long way to sort of define the quality of the game. Like on the Simpsons one, they had all the cast members doing voices. And, you had like the nuclear towers were there as like the scoring things you could hit.
Sure.
And, a lot of the bonus stuff was based on sort of Simpsons game type stuff. Versus like a lot of games, I remember before the 90s, there were like celebrity or pop culture based pinball games. But it was really, it's the Elton John pinball game.
Yeah, the Kiss video.
And all it was just whatever the artwork was on it. It had nothing to do with the actual thing.
Well, it's interesting that the pinball game was so well done, and so many of their other video games were just this weird kind of haphazard.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Well, the first arcade one's great.
well, it's strange. It's fun. It's like a 4-person beat 'em up, sort of in the vein of like that X-Men game.
Yeah.
But it's very strange because Marge Simpson is, I guess, attacking people with a vacuum cleaner. Which, okay, I guess so.
Too.
Which is, Bart uses his skateboard. That's fine. Homer, I think he just punches people. And then Lisa, famous for singing the blues with her saxophone or playing the blues, she uses a jump rope.
Oh.
And like a bunch of their other games, like Bart versus like the Space Mutants, and
There's some weird ones.
they were just really strange, like applications of like the characters
Yeah.
into like it was almost like they designed a game then put like the Simpsons in it versus the pinball, which seems to have been just from bolts up well built around whatever they are.
The Simpsons being animated in Korea, I think for the last 30 years of its life, or it has always been overseas has always been an element of the production, has, I'm sure, hundreds of talented story people who understand the story, they understand the characters. But if that video game were perhaps created by a production team in another country, as some video games are,
Yeah.
it seems like those people were tone deaf to the motivations of the characters and the rules of comedy within Springfield.
They're like the same guys who are making the bootleg T-shirts.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And the only video game I owned on a console was the Simpsons Road Rage.
Okay.
Which
Like a
was
generic driving game.
It was like Crazy Taxi,
Yeah.
except you could drive like Homer's car or something else, and you would drive around town and you'd see like characters you could interact with. But
In like 2002
Gil,
or
Gil,
so.
by the way, Gil was one of the characters I always
Dude,
loved.
2001 or 2002, there was a wealth of like driving games that you could just apply it featured like one for everyone. I had a Smurfs driving game for the PlayStation. There was a Simpsons one. There was obviously a South Park one. South Park's thing is always like, oh, the Simpsons have done it first. It's like, well, they probably did too with the driving video game.
Oh, sure.
I wonder if there's a South Park pinball machine.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Okay.
Yeah. So, last thing about it, it's one of my favorite 90s pinball games, and I think it's one of the best applications of, pop culture thing translated into a pinball world.
Yeah. Okay, don't have a cow, but we're almost done. Michael, what's your fourth?
My fourth is when the Simpsons movie came out, and a dozen or so 7-Elevens were transformed into Kwik-E-Marts around the United States. And it was such an amazing and perfect cross-promotion for something that you've always, associated the two, whether it was, the salesman,
the cultural heritage of the salespeople.
They kind of made all of the guys behind the counter wear Apu shirts.
Yeah.
And they painted
and talk in offensive Southeast Asian accents.
To turning Slurpees into squishies, to painting all the buildings yellow and decorating them with like faux Simpsons everything.
And I think that's when they first debuted the pink donuts with the sprinkles, which they still have to this day.
Which is something I would like to talk about. The pink donut became a symbol of the movie, and it wasn't a major like aspect of The Simpsons. Sure, Homer ate donuts, but like the pink donut wasn't like. If I thought of The Simpsons, 45th on the list would be him eating a pink donut.
Yeah.
But ever since then, this thing has been like eponymous with Homer Simpson and The Simpsons. They invented this thing to use as a thing for the movie, and then as a tie-in at the Kwik-E-Mart. You can, if you go up to Universal Studios, you can go to the Simpsons World and get a big pink donut.
Yeah.
And it's so strange, and I don't like. It seems like something that is so far away from The Simpsons for me that feels like such a marketing thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't put my hands on it. Like I would think of, I don't know, like Buzz Cola and like Duff Beer are so much more, within the show and like real products. And of course you could get a Duff Beer and a Buzz Cola.
Yeah. I think former show guest Paul Lurie was, I think, the first person I knew who waited in the line at the one there's one in Burbank. I know that.
Yeah, I went to that one.
You went to that one. I went to that one. I think Paul was the first one who went. I just remember him. First off, Paul is the type of person who would wait for 2 hours to go into
anywhere. He'll just wait.
He just loves. He loved the man loves lines.
He sees three people standing in line, just gets behind them, doesn't know why.
But I just remember
vasectomy's here. Ah!
I just remember his enthusiasm for how awesome this thing was. And did you feel it was a bit of a letdown when you went in, or were you like, "Wow, this is amazing"?
I mean, it happened in 2007, so my 10-year-old memory of it is
a little blurry.
I think I was probably pretty impressed. I wish there were things that were less like decals on the wall.
Yeah,
like does there need to be a 6 foot tall comic book guy painted on the wall? I'd rather see like one of like a statue of him, which is one of the strangest things if you're at like the Universal Studios and you see like 3D versions of Simpsons characters standing around. They are monstrous.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you remember that one, the Treehouse of Horror, where he became like a bad 3D sprite thing. Monstrous.
But like the transformation of some characters from 2D to 3D kind of works, with like Disney. Mickey Mouse doesn't feel so crazy to see.
Yeah.
But like seeing like a quasi-human 3-fingered giant yellow creature that's your size plus 150 pounds and it's just round and so strange. It's so odd, and it's like, oh well, I wonder if Matt Groening sees stuff like this in real life.
Well, what this might do is actually bring us full circle from the time in its early existence when The Simpsons was anarchy personified or perceived to be such by the authority. Now they've been with us for nearly 30 years to the point where one of the biggest family entertainment establishments is going to embrace it and not double but triple down on it by making a land where you can walk and talk and touch and grab these horribly offensive attacks on family values and interact and eat their donuts and do all that stuff. But I know the feeling, and you do as a Star Wars fan, I'm sure, to like see that thing that you've loved be created in 3D around you, and see them get it right, and then see the things that they got wrong.
Right.
And it feels like your favorite song being played just out of key, or somebody messed up the solo.
Well, it feels like the last half of the Simpsons episodes, where it feels like at some point, after the first 10, 12 years, the show seems to just have changed. Maybe it happened after the movie, but all the characters feel like impressions of the characters that I remember, rather than them like that. It feels like the writers will say that's something that Homer would say versus writing something for Homer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like maybe the impression always feels like it's just changed enough that it's almost like self-parody.
It's eaten itself.
Yes, yeah. Like a big pink donut.
Okay, so what a great discussion, and this is the longest running television show in history, or U.S. history. Maybe the British have a show called like News Today, Essex Today,
Right.
Parliament Review, that's been around for 50 years.
Up your flagpole.
Up your flagpole.
Called, hey, what's all this then?
What's all this then? And as a Simpsons fan, I immediately go to Pardon My Jest, their improv show. So it was fun to discuss. The scoring shall go thusly. Again, you guys have a lot of arguments, but you have a lot of agreement in the observation of the era in which George H. Bush.
H is for hating the Simpsons.
Proclaimed The Simpsons to the end of family entertainment. And so Michael and you both agreed on that. And Michael, you both agreed on bootleg stuff and how fun that was and how much that extended the experience of the show. And but I'm going to pick, so each get one for that. But I would like to pick so now I have to pick one. No, I get to assign two more. And the two more that I'm going to give is going to keep us in equal footing. Okay, and I'd like to award Michael a point for the 7-Eleven Apu Kwik-E-Mart Simpsons makeover. I think that was really a neat pull, because we can talk about souvenirs or other Simpsons periphery, but an actual place and making of our place is really cool. And pinball. I really love you making a parallel between this show that people love and the nuance and character of it, and a game that has seen a lot of competition from video games and things like that, but was able to get the idea of the Simpsons right in your pinball story. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
This has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. I am Jeff.
I'm Richard.
Don't have a cow, men and women.
Suing
our ass.